Are you following along with this January theme where we're just coming at you with some hit in the face topics around nutrition? You have to start January and any new year off with a bang because it's just par for the course, right? Because we're all going to be inundated. If you haven't felt it already, you're definitely going to be feeling it soon with all of the new year, new me kind of energy, and I'm here for it. But also I feel like in that franticness of self-improvement, sometimes we can find ourselves a little bit vulnerable to some trends and maybe some not so relevant information for us, especially when it comes to the world of like health, wellness, hormones, and a big component of that topic usually is nutrition. So welcome to Learn with Lo. If you have missed the first two episodes of this series, I highly encourage you to go back and check them out because they have been just absolute bangers of episodes. Episode number 1 was really talking about how if we're going to be giving out nutritional information, if we're going to be accepting and receiving nutritional information, it needs to be very physiology forward. We are here about data, not diets. Okay. So that's what we talked about all in episode number 1. Whether you are a patient or you're a practitioner, we need to make sure that we are working with professionals that know how to use and interpret labs as part of their nutritional guidance. I shared 5 key blood work markers that you should be looking at and how they should be guiding your overall specific nutritional plan and not just flying blind with these cookie cutter recommendations, which then led us into episode number 2. Where last week I got so much great feedback from this episode because I think I left you guys' head spinning, which was kind of my intent, around this conversation of elimination diets and how elimination diets are being grossly underused in terms of, I shouldn't say underused, they're actually being overused and they're being, overpromised in the way that we're not using them correctly, right? And so last week we really talked about why elimination diets should be used as more of a diagnostic clue than anything else. The treatment is not restricting or eliminating foods. Okay. We have too many practitioners out there that are really just feeding into this confusion for people that if you eliminate a food and you feel relief, that somehow you've created resolution to the problem. No, ma'am, you have not. You have just created a cycle of more restriction. And so last week I really talked about the 3 main patterns of food reactions that I see in clinic and what type of diagnostic clues it gives me, because ultimately if you're responding to or reacting to higher FODMAP foods, you're reacting to high sulfur rich foods, you're reacting to high histamine foods, like this is not a conversation where then we restrict said foods. This is a conversation where we take that in as diagnostic data and then start to understand why. Why is your body not digesting those perfectly healthful and perfectly normal foods? That's where the invitation and the work really begins to dig deeper. And by eliminating those foods for someone, I did nothing to improve their overall health trajectory by just eliminating those foods, right? So if, like I said, you missed any of the prior 2 episodes of the series, definitely go back and check those out because today we're going to be really kind of building into this theme of what I'm seeing with the modern diet culture and some of the biggest problems that I'm seeing and deficiencies that I'm seeing individuals come in with, and they have no idea that they have self-perpetuated this deficiency picture. So what we really want to talk about today is when I start to see people in some of these patterns, right? We talked about in episode 1 where we're not following physiology and we're not letting data drive us. We're just following the trends of different diets, or if we're following the trends of these elimination diets, there becomes a very quickly emerging trend that I see with patients that come to me in clinic and have been inadvertently been, victimized by a lot of this like modern diet culture understanding. And this very specific pattern is usually individuals who are doing all of the right things on paper. They are eating well. They feel like they're very mindful about foods. Maybe they're even avoiding a lot of foods that they have been told are inflammatory or unhealthy. And yet they're still feeling tired, not just tired because life is busy, but tired tired and fatigued in a way that sleep doesn't really fix. Their energy feels unpredictable. On some days they feel okay. Other days they feel heavy for no obvious reason. Their gut feels inconsistent. Foods they used to tolerate, suddenly they feel like a gamble. Their mood is flat. They feel anxious. They're less resilient than they used to be. It's just naturally we kind of start to try to make sense of it. And you wonder, it's like, is it my hormones? Is it my gut? Is it inflammation? Is it stress? And honestly, none of those things are wrong. Those thought processes and answers, though, they're kind of incomplete because it could be your hormones. It very well could be your gut. It could be inflammation. It could be stress. It could be any combination of those. But really, at the end of the day, there's even a deeper trend that is emerging underneath all of those different thought patterns. Because if you look under the hood, if you're really going to look at labs and you're going to look at patterns and we're going to look at physiology, what often we find isn't this like mysterious dysfunction or a body that's failing. What I tend to find in clinic very often is that this is a system that is under-resourced, flat out. Energy intake has not kept up with the energy demand that their body is requiring. Vitamin and mineral stress are very, very depleted. Protein is being borrowed from other roles in the body, and absorption in the body can't even keep up with pace. So it's not a body that's broken. It is a body that is very much compensating. And this is where, when you start to see this trend emerge, because people are following outdated and misrepresented nutritional advice with very, very good intentions, right? Nobody is doing this in a malicious way. They're trying to better their health. And that's what really bugs me the most, is these are individuals that are truly careful and they're trying and they're passionate about bettering their life and bettering their health, and they're not getting the right information. And so they're following the information that is wrong for them. And when you start to see this trend emerge, what happens is this under-resourced body in clinical nutrition and medical terminology, there is a state for this. And this state, it's not burnout, it's not hormonal imbalance, it's not IBS, it's not your body being sensitive or dramatic. At the end of the day, what I am seeing is a massive trend of malnourishment. I know you're probably like, excuse me, malnourishment, right? And I know that like immediately brings up images of like food scarcity or like extreme deprivation, which is exactly why this malnutrition epidemic is going grossly missed by most of modern medicine, because malnourishment does not mean a lack of food, okay? It means lack of unstable nourishment availability from food. And that's how you can live in a world where food is abundant, no doubt. We have plenty of different food. Calories are everywhere. And even healthy eating is constantly being talked about, but our bodies are literally running on empty. And today I want to talk about why that is, because this is something that once you kind of start to see and understand modern diet culture and the elimination patterns and the outdated nutritional logic that is literally creating this state of malnourishment, especially in this post-COVID era where we have more reactive bodies, the entire health conversation is going to shift and change for you. Because once you see it, you're not going to be able to unsee it. You're kind of like me, where I'm like, oh my gosh, there is an epidemic of malnourishment showing up, and everybody is thinking that it's like, it's my hormones, it's stress, it's perimenopause, it's my gut. And I'm like, yeah, it could be all of those things, but at the end of the day, we have to really understand what makes all of those systems run optimally is the nourishment underneath the scenes. So what we're going to be talking about today is more than just food. It's definitely not calories. We're not talking about macros. I am talking about nutrients. And this is going to make so much sense when you hear just even like the biochemistry behind it, right? So what most people think of when I say the word like malnourished, of course, you're going to picture extremes, like a starving child in Africa on a commercial asking for your donation, or an emaciated celebrity on the brink of like an eating disorder, right? And while those pictures are very true, those would represent malnourished individuals, we're missing a very obvious malnourishment body that is also overweight, severely inflamed and struggling with chronic symptoms. Yes, I said it. Someone who is like overweight, inflamed, and struggling with chronic symptoms is malnourished. Okay, so don't let those two terms like create an improper image in your brain, because physiologically malnourishment simply means that the body does not have adequate energy, adequate nutrients, or absorption capacity to meet the metabolic demands. So this is where I see people who eat clean, track macros, take supplements, avoid processed foods. They're following every fitness trend, but their bodies are still running on empty. The fatigue, the anxiety, the hormone dysregulation, the gut issues, the autoimmune issues, the brain fog. These are not random, okay? These are very predictable outcomes and symptoms that happen when the body doesn't have what it needs to function, right? So there's really three main ways where I see this malnourishment trend showing up in clinic, and then what we are thinking about to fix it and to rectify it, right? So number one, what we see, of course, malnourishment is going to come from a downstream effect of prolonged caloric restriction. That's kind of the obvious one, right? That makes sense. We're chronically underfueling, but it's not always intentional, especially in today's world. I see plenty of individuals that are in prolonged caloric restriction, but it's been normalized and it's been even praised in weird senses. And this is probably due to one, an explosion of appetite suppressing medication. Are we surprised that we are creating an epidemic of malnourishment? We should not be shocked here, okay? Another driver, which is kind of incidental, is over-exercising and under-fueling. That can also be a chronic malnourishment pattern. And the third is really decades of just outdated focus on calories and people not having a whole lot of understanding beyond food that calories honestly aren't really it. That's not how your body thinks about food. So usually on labs, I can pick this out pretty quick. I can see, is someone in a state of caloric restriction, because they usually have low T3. So that's your active thyroid hormone, low T3. If they have high reverse T3, suppressed progesterone levels in females, elevated cortisol levels. Sometimes, like I said, your labs may not match like how you feel. You know what I mean? And so this is where it takes a skilled clinician to be able to pick out some of these patterns, because in real life, you might feel like, what does it feel like to have low T3, high reverse T3, low progesterone, high cortisol? It feels like you're tired and wired. It feels like you crash in the middle of the afternoon. It feels like your cycle becomes irregular or just disappears entirely. You feel cold all the time. You feel more anxious. You feel more brain fog. You feel like your body is kind of like constantly bracing. And I see this, like I said, all the time with individuals that are eating healthy, consistently exercising, being told that you're doing great, all the while their body is barely conserving energy just to survive. Okay. That is not resilience. That is not something to push through. That's not something that we should be praising. No hormone or supplement or medication is going to save you from this state. At some point, you're going to have to go back and address your overall relationship with fuel and nourishment. So that's pattern number one that I see, is like a prolonged caloric restrictive state. Of course, that's going to turn into malnutrition. The second pattern that I tend to see is specifically micronutrient deficiencies, and probably even more specific than that, it's minerals. Done deal. I see so many severely mineral depleted states. Even when your overall intake, like overall calorie intake or macronutrient intake, looks adequate, I see so many people that are severely nutrient depleted. And to me, minerals and vitamins as well too, but vitamins and minerals, people, these are not optional. These are not cute in your little Flintstone gummy vitamin. These are cofactors of your energy metabolism. They act as the key, the lock and key for creating energy, hormones, detoxification, neurotransmitters, immune system regulation. And yet there's so many studies out there that are showing, and I'm seeing it every day in clinic, where large portions of adults who are absolutely meeting energy needs and energy demands, but they are so micronutrient depleted, specifically magnesium, zinc, iron, B vitamins, vitamin D. And why am I seeing this? Number one, elimination diets. Okay. People are on these like elimination diets where they're like gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, egg-free, FODMAP-free, low histamine diet. And what they're doing is they're swapping perfectly healthful foods for safe replacements, but those safe replacements are usually very nutrient depleted. Like you kind of think about someone that maybe, I don't know, follows a gluten-free diet and they swap, maybe they were doing like whole wheat bread, which was just like wheat flour, water, and yeast and salt. And they swap it for like a gluten-free bread that has 50 different ingredients in it and 4 different gums that they can't even recognize, right? I see this all the time with people that go gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, egg-free, like half of the swaps that they're putting in, I wouldn't. I'm like, those are questionable at best because you're just contributing to someone severely nutrient deficient in that situation. I also see that a lot of times individuals, like there's this idea that it's automatically healthy when you're eating, like I said, a ton of like modern diet foods. I think the biggest one of this is protein bars, protein powders, fiber powders. Like we're swapping real food for supplemental or processed food equivalents, and those are severely nutrient depleted. So please do not let someone convince you that you're out there like counting calories, counting macros, and you chug away protein shake and that's a nutrient equivalent of eating a steak. No, ma'am, it is not. No, we're so far away from that because that protein shake really gave you nothing in terms of zinc, magnesium, vitamin A, iron. Like there's none of that in there. Even if you're like, oh, well, my protein shake also has a greens powder in it. Your body doesn't care. Okay. That is like a man-made food ingredient that we're trying to pass off as our nutrient needs, and it's just not cutting the slack. So I probably see this the most in individuals that are following, like I said, long-term elimination diets, or individuals that are having to make a lot of these like allergen kind of swaps for foods that inadvertently aren't necessarily like healthier in nature. Not to mention our quick and convenience culture where everything is just like, how instant is it? How fast is it? And that usually means we're trading a lot of nutrient deficiencies for those types of foods. So on labs, I tend to see this all the time. Low ferritin, low hemoglobin, low B12, suboptimal alkaline phosphatase markers, which is a liver enzyme that tells you you're deficient in zinc and magnesium, elevated levels of homocysteine. These are definitely markers that I see in individuals that kind of feel like anxiety that doesn't respond to like nervous system regulation work. They have poor stress tolerance. Maybe their hair is falling out or thinning. They're not sleeping super well. They're feeling depleted no matter how much they rest. Like this is where food as medicine gets severely misunderstood, because this is not about eating less. This is about eating foods that your body can actually use and replenishing what has been quietly drained behind the scenes, which then leads us into the third and final pattern that I'll share with you today around the third pattern that I see showing up in my clinic around malnourishment. And that is very closely tied to malnourishment is this epidemic of malabsorption. Okay. So sometimes it's not even about the inputs. Maybe someone is eating adequate amount of nutrients and calories. Maybe someone is eating a lot of whole food, nutrient dense sources. And I tell you what, there's so many people that come to me doing a lot of those things right on paper, and they're still so malnourished. This is an absorption issue. This is a gut problem now, okay? So this is probably the most frustrating one for a lot of people because it can fly under the radar, right? Like if you audit their overall inputs, like you audit their overall dietary strategy, their overall nutritional mindset, maybe they're even like nervous system status, like on paper, they're really feeling like a lot of the inputs are spot on. And this is someone eating a lot of high quality food in adequate amounts, and their body is just straight up not absorbing it. And so usually this is common in individuals that come to me and they have autoimmune disease. They either have a current autoimmune pattern or they have multiple autoimmune patterns. They have chronic gut inflammation. They've been diagnosed with your irritable bowel disease, IBS, Crohn's, they SIBO, some of those types of patterns. They've been told they have leaky gut. They have high prolonged stress responses, and psychologically, stress and inflammation are going to reduce your stomach acid. They reduce your bile output. They slow your gut motility. So even the best diet's not going to land in this picture. And so a lot of times what I see with these people is chronically low vitamin D, especially on a lab panel. I'm like, that's probably not... Probably not a let's take more vitamin D picture. This is something we need to really address why you're not absorbing vitamin D. Usually I see low protein markers. I see high inflammatory markers on these individuals. They usually have a lot of bloating after meals, undigested food in their stool, a lot of fatigue as well too, and just food reactions that may not make sense. So in this situation, just telling someone to just eat more or eat cleaner, it feels so infuriating for them because the issue is not their effort. Their issue is digestion, okay? So we need to understand that nutrition without digestive support is very incomplete care. So I say all of this because I want you guys to recognize that the modern nutrition education needs a massive overhaul, and we need a massive upgrade because not only do we have misinformation out there for patients to try to digest and absorb, but we also have a lot of outdated information that very well-intentioned practitioners are trying to follow, and it just ain't it. We've got to use data to guide us over just blanket diets. We've got to use food reactions that we're seeing as diagnostic clues to dig deeper. And instead of blaming everything on your hormones, it's probably your nutrient status, okay? We're probably severely depleted in a lot of those nutritional cofactors that are responsible for things like detoxification and gut motility and hormone balance. So how this looks so much different with the lowdown holistic medicine methods that I've developed and use in practice and train other practitioners in these methods as well too, is really zooming out and starting to ask, we don't jump straight to recommendations here, okay? So at the lowdown, you don't plan your meals on day one, right? You absolutely do not start with just supplements and blanket food rules. We have to first understand where is the body at right now, and we have to meet the body where it's at. So the very two things that absolutely you have to start with, number one, especially in all my practice, we start with testing. Okay, that is number one. Everybody walks in. We are looking at objective data. We are not guessing here. Labs are going to show us more information about their energy availability, their micronutrient status, your digestive enzymes, your immune system markers, your stress physiology, the things that cannot accurately be assessed by just looking at someone or listening to their symptoms, right? I have to have some objective data to guide me here. So number one, if we're talking about the biggest upgrades we need with our nutritional data or nutritional education, number one, we have to learn how to start guiding these recommendations based off of data and not just putting people on blanket diets. Number two, very closely related to blood work or other diagnostic data. The second, and just as most important, you have to understand what that person's real life looks like. So data in terms of objective lab markers, yes, but I also need data of what does your day in the life look like right now? Are you eating meals at home? Are you eating meals on the go? Do you cook at home? Are you eating more fast food meals or having someone else prep your meals for you? What do you like? What do you not like? I need to know all of it. How do you eat? When do you eat? Where do you eat? How do you sleep? How do you move? How stressed are you? What type of capacity do you have? We want to know how the body is navigating every single day, because context is going to matter just as much as these lab values. Because then we don't make any recommendations until I have both of those pictures. I have to meet the person in front of me where they are at exactly here, both mentally and also physically. Then once we have that full picture, now nutrition is customized around your physiology and your preferences and your needs and your lifestyle. We're not just putting you on something that's trendy. We're putting you not just on something that like worked for everybody else and it should work for you. It's not something that's just like, oh, it's the latest trend and it sounds impressive on paper. If your body is underfueled, we need to address energy and nutrient status first. If your micronutrients are depleted, we need to prioritize repleting those first. If digestion is compromised, we need to be supporting digestion before we're going to be expanding or even restricting foods. And supplements like this definitely matters, but they're never the foundation. Okay, you're not going to be able to out supplement your way out of these significant nutrient deficiencies that then you think are hormone issues, detox issues, gut issues, when they may or may not be, right? So once we have that data and we're starting to customize things, then we also know that this is something that's malleable. This is going to change. This is going to flow because bodies change. Your life changes, your stress changes, your hormones shift. So I think just as important as it is for me to help someone meet them where they're at today, I also am educating them about the next chapters of their life. Okay, because if you are a female or living in a female body, every decade of your life is a little different. So once you understand food the way that your body understands food, you're going to know what you might need, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, a decade from now. Different phases require different inputs, and we expect that. But we don't confuse like short-term relief with what it looks like to actually build long-term resilience. So that's where I just think like in this day and age of nutritional education, we have a lot of work that we can do, a lot of exciting things on the horizon that I'm really stoked to be on the cusp and the front line of, because I truly believe that nutritional upgrades are very hungry for an update and an updated pattern. If you do not feel like you have been getting great customized nutritional guidance information, if you feel like you are also stuck in any of these patterns of just blanket diet recommendations, eliminations and restrictions over expansiveness and increasing your tolerance, or you feel like truly you also fit some of those malabsorption patterns, this is nothing to do with your body composition. You can absolutely be. I treat many people who are living in a larger body than they want to live in, and they are malnourished. And the way to get them out of that spiral is to nourish them, not to restrict them. So that's why it's just bonkers to me why everybody's kind of, like I said, really gung-ho about following such a blanket restrictive approach, and we're still stuck on this like appetite suppression, calorie counting thing, and it's 2026. I'm like, what are we doing? I'm about creating healthier bodies and long-term bodies that domino success across the board. So if that's you as well too, click the link in my bio. It will take you to my website where you can see all sorts of ways to work together. You can download my free guide to comprehensive hormone labs freebie. So you know exactly what labs to ask for, and you know exactly what labs I run inside my functional wellness consult. And if you're ready to jump into one-on-one work together, you can register for the functional wellness consult there as well too. So hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you next week.